Joining me now is Carla Sands, who was the former US ambassador to Denmark during the last Trump administration. Hello to you.
Hey, it's great to talk to you, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Now, can you tell me, what is your understanding of what Donald Trump and the administration want from Greenland? What do they want?
Well, it's not really what they want, it's what's necessary. So if we just look at the sort of geopolitics of this, if people could just kind of zoom out a little bit, we see the Kingdom of Denmark. It's Denmark, the small country over in Northern Europe, and then the Faroe Islands, a tiny chain of islands up in that GI-UK gap, not that far from Scotland, from the Scottish Isles. And then we see Greenland, part of North America, the world's largest island. So Denmark has its own capabilities, but as a matter of fact, they're limited just because of the size of Denmark's population and their GDP.
So the idea is to annex it, make it part of the United States.
Well, is that a possibility? Yes, anything is possible. But what might make more sense is, in order to secure Greenland, since Denmark can't afford to do and hasn't shown an interest in developing Greenland, it's just kind of left it up there and not invested a tiny bit. But the people of Greenland, they want to be prosperous like every other country's people. And so the play would be, how do we secure Greenland and help them have economic prosperity? And to have it be done with an ally, although they're trying to turn us into an enemy just by the behavior of the Danish government, but as an ally rather than having an adversary come in and do it. Greenland wants to develop. They're going independent. They have no military. They have no capability of defending themselves. So it's really going to be one of the great powers that secures Greenland. Now, should it be the Chinese Communist Party that has interests that are negative in the world, or the United States, which has good intentions around the world, in spite of what was happening under Biden and Obama with the funding of foreign wars and the things that are being uncovered by DOJ at USAID and really throughout the US government. That ends now. President Trump is cleaning house with the help of CEOs and people working with Elon Musk.
Okay, I just want to concentrate on the international policy. The problem with that vision, if you like, is that there are very few people living in Greenland. Those who are there have basically had an election. Some would like independence, but most of them are acceptant, and the new government is acceptant of the status quo, i.e. Being with Denmark. So they just don't want this American plan at all. And it looks like, straightforward territorial aggression and expansionism by the US.
Not at all. So if, for instance, the UK had a large island next to it, and UK
it's called Ireland.
Okay, but Ireland actually, Ireland is prosperous, has a lot of people, and even if it's not a perfect relationship, they're certainly developed and they have, capabilities. Greenland has no capabilities, and Denmark doesn't have. They have like 30 guys up there, Denmark, on an island a third the size of the continental US. Even though they're saying we're going to invest, $1 billion over X number of years, that's not going to get it done. And then you have the giant seas, the GI-UK gap, these giant seas around Greenland, and I'll say around Faroe Islands, because there's a lot of Russian influence.
So this is basically saying the US takes over whether the Greenlanders like it or not. That's what's good. Whether they want it or not, right?
So Greenland was very friendly with the US. Denmark government has, they've done polls out of Denmark. They've done all kinds of lobbying and sort of they've worked to create an enemy, a boogeyman of the US against. So Denmark is trying to play Greenland off of the US to keep Greenland part of Denmark. And I understand the play. And it's to save the government that's there, and no disrespect for that government, but they still can't afford to defend Greenland or develop it. So it's like having an asset, owning a car or a piece of land you can't afford to own. You have to sell it. They can't afford it.
Well, with all due respect, that's not what the Danish government are saying, as you would know because you've been ambassador there. Denmark is actually one of the world's richest countries. I think it's per capita richer than the United States. And
No, that's not true. And they have an economy about the size of the state of Colorado.
yeah,
If
but
you
that's why
stick to
that's what
the
I'm saying.
state,
That's why I'm saying per capita.
yeah,
And
no, they're
also
not. It's not higher GDP per capita than the
and
US.
this is what's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Denmark is a NATO ally of the United States. And so what the administration is saying, you want to take territory away from a NATO ally.
It's not true. So one thing has nothing to do with the other.
I mean, you
Denmark is a NATO ally. Yes, we
yeah,
appreciate
sure, that's
that. Although they haven't been a good NATO ally, they have failed most of their NATO report cards. They don't deliver what they're supposed to deliver. But as a matter of fact, it's decoupled. It has nothing to do with being a NATO ally. This is an asset they can't afford to own, and they cannot control it because they can't afford to. They don't have the manpower or the money. So because of that, it will be a great power that controls that.
what they're saying. They're not saying that at all, are they?
What are they not saying?
Well, they're not saying that they can't afford to look after Greenland.
But they can't. They've never developed. There's not one road between two towns. There was a mayor in a small town that I met and talked to. I saw his plans. He came to my embassy. I went to visit him in his town. He wanted to build a road for three-wheeled vehicles between a town and an airport, a real road, but gravel for three-wheel vehicles. But it's something. It's a beginning.
Yeah, but look, this is the
Couldn't
point.
get money. Wait, let me finish. He couldn't get money from Greenland or from Denmark to build his road. So that mayor was a hero. But Denmark has no interest in investing in the development of Greenland. They can't afford to. They have so much social welfare programs in the main country of Denmark, servicing their people and frankly, and servicing Greenland. They can't afford to send $600 million a year, every year as welfare and still do more development. They don't have the capacity.
As it is, there's a block grant from Denmark, which accounts for 2/3 of the Greenland's government's budget. And about a quarter of the GDP of Greenland. Now, that is supporting Greenland. That's what the Danes are doing. And what puzzles me about your saying, I can see that the Trump administration or you might think Greenland would be better off if you took it over and developed it and all that. But all the evidence is
Wait, but I'm not
Greenlanders and the
proposing
Danes just don't want it. That's the truth.
And I'm not proposing we take it over. Greenland can be
Well,
independent.
Donald Trump is. He said one way or another, you're going to take it over.
But I don't speak for the Trump administration. There are many ways for us to help secure Greenland. We have countries that are independent of the United States that are in an association with us that we defend and we help to develop. So they have their own budget, their own government. They are their own independent country. Places like Micronesia, like Palau, it's a COFA. And this free association agreement is something that they could do. And then they work with us. Then we can have US companies go in, invest, and we can backstop those investments because Greenland's a dangerous place to invest because of the weather and the lack of infrastructure. We have Exim Bank.
You were just saying lots of other countries wanted to invest there. Now you're saying it's dangerous. Which is it?
Oh, it's very dangerous to invest in Greenland.
But the Chinese want to invest there as well, right?
The Chinese, because they don't need to make money, these are state-owned enterprises, the Chinese Communist, nothing happens without direction from the Chinese Communist Party. And these state-owned enterprises, yes, have invested in the mines in Greenland. That most mines there have Chinese companies have a minority interest in those mines. That's to lock it up and lock it away from others. They have no need to make money because it is the government of China.
All right, you've already said that North America is an island, and Greenland is part of that. You know, I
didn't say North America is an island. No, I said that Greenland is the world's largest island.
Yeah, I know that, and part of North America is what you said. I think
it's part. Yes, it is part of North America.
Yeah. Okay. Now the problem is that between the United States and Greenland, there's a country called Canada. So where does this fit into this plan?
Well, we're not talking about Canada, so we don't need to expand this.
Well,
We're
if we're
talking about
talking about a
Greenland.
greater United States, we are definitely talking about Canada, aren't we?
But I'm
And
not involved in that discussion. That's
oh,
for other people to talk about.
so
I'm not an expert on Canada. It has nothing to do with Greenland.
so you think it has nothing to do with Greenland, although it's closer to Greenland than the United States?
Well, so it is north of the United States. There's no question that geographically it's closer, but Canada doesn't have the economy to support and defend. They can't even defend
Right.
Canada without the US. So you have
Okay,
to look at the world with as it is.
yeah, but
None
we're
of these
looking at an
allies can defend it.
administration that's not only saying it wants to take over Greenland, but is also saying that Canada should be the 51st state.
Well, you'll have to talk to someone else about the idea of
I
Canada.
mean, do you think that's a good idea
I'm
as
not an
well?
expert on Canada. I am an expert on Greenland, and
Yeah,
I'm an expert on the relationship between the US and
but
Greenland.
I mean, you would understand that if you look at all this, what it looks like is a philosophy in the White House of saying, might is right, we're the biggest, we're the richest, we're going to take over whatever we see to be in our economic zone. Would that be a correct characterization?
You know, I'm not in the White House and I'm not in the administration, so I can't speak to it. All my opinions are my own. But I
Sure,
can
I'm not.
tell you that Greenland is not secure and that it will take a global great power to secure Greenland. And I believe that it will be secured.
Thank you very much indeed.